Welcome to Better Buses, where we believe that buses need human factors solutions for bus drivers, passengers, pedestrians and other road users. In the Bus Drivers' Bill of Rights that bus drivers marched for in London on November 5th, 2024, with marches and rallies since, number 8 in the list of rights is the right to drive without being forced to answer radio messages and texts from controllers whilst in motion. Today we're diving into the iBus radio system, a crucial tool for communication between bus drivers, route controllers and TfL controllers. Since its launch in 2009, iBus has played a key role in keeping London's bus network moving. Now, with iBus 2 on the horizon, new technology promises improvements. But are we at risk of carrying over old problems in how we approach communication? This video is simply an introduction to the iBus system so that future videos won't have to keep going into detail when we talk about it. My name's Joe and these views are my own. So who's calling whom on the bus radios and why? Before we start talking about who is using the communication, let's think about the bus. Each bus has a microphone and a speaker, the same as a mobile phone. And in that respect, you can have one-to-one communication with those the system allows you to contact. The speaker also allows announcements that are made either to your route, to all buses in your bus company, or for the whole of London. In this respect, it's like a selective megaphone to get information quickly to a lot of buses. In London, Transport for London and bus companies are the ones connected to the system. Both can have mobile phone style conversations with the driver involving two people or make announcements into the bus cab requiring only the attention, not two-way participation, of the driver. Although there are times when group calls might ask for confirmation that drivers can hear the announcements and other nuances. Drivers can initiate a phone-like call to their garage controller with a green call button for different and diverse reasons. They can assist the controller with real-time updates from the road, or sometimes because they need something for themselves or for the service. Maybe they need instructions about a spontaneous diversion, the distance between them and the bus in front, or to report or have help with mechanical issues, or even just a way to get back on time. Bus route controllers use the route megaphone to provide updates like diversions, delays or stop closures. The Service Control Centre, SCC, which was formerly NMCC and before that Centrecom, can also have a phone-like conversation with the driver. These are usually initiated by the driver with one of two buttons depending on the urgency of the communication. Code blue can be something unexpected like heavy traffic. Code red is more serious, a road blockage or potentially something requiring the emergency services. Now the type of megaphone calls SCC makes often list multiple routes and often are not relevant to you. Sometimes of course they are. It's worth noting that the system behaves differently depending on the strain that it's under. With light to medium use over London, a bus driver can initiate a call and expect a relatively quick response. But when something pushes the system to extreme use, like a major road closure, that system can develop massive delays. We'll see this in a moment, but the system essentially starts when the driver initiates a call. They send a text message to the controller saying that they want to be contacted. When the controller is ready, they will start a call with the driver. This, I'm informed, can take some time to find a line or channel. This would be like dialing in a phone number and waiting for the ringing to begin. On a phone you would expect this to be instantaneous, but when a huge volume of calls go through the iBus system, delays in those calls going through to that ringing stage are experienced. I was once told that the iBus system only had 70-something channels, presumably meaning that 70 conversations could be had at the same time. I don't know if this is accurate or has changed over time, but if true, it adds to the delay that we won't account for as we look into the iBus system. When a London bus driver needs or wants a one-to-one communication with their garage controller, they press the green call button on the iBus unit, sometimes referred to as band 3. A press starts the comms process. For one-to-one calls with TfL, you would press the red or blue button. At a controller's workstation, a green log entry should appear in the controller's events menu, indicating the driver's desire to be contacted. This is a generic call request, and unless something stands out to the controller from the information they can obtain, this will be answered chronologically. This is like sending someone a text saying, "Call me back." The speed at which the controller can call you back and initiate a synchronous radio call over the iBus system depends on the task that they need to perform. We need to remember that controllers can be in charge of a few routes or over 40 buses. If the controller is unavailable because they are dealing with another call, the driver has to wait until they are ready to respond. In the best case scenario, your call is the only one coming through. In the worst case, if a long diversion has been announced by SCC, with many drivers potentially wanting clarification, then the list can get full real fast, and the controller has those generic "call me back" texts to work through. As I mentioned, I'm advised that when a huge number of calls are being made across the system, the controller will have to wait for the call to be connected to the bus, which is a delay that we're not going to display here. If a controller wants to call the driver, the process starts at this point rather than the driver pressing the green call button. It's essential to note that bus companies don't own the iBus system. TfL does. And I understand that the megaphone calls from TfL's SCC take priority. In cases of disruption, a series of calls from SCC can be ongoing, leading to a waiting period for controllers to call drivers back on the one-to-one. When the controller calls the bus back and then opens dialogue, we have to ask, is the driver available to respond? And here we hit the biggest issue, what we call the moving bus problem. And this is a significant one. Drivers go in and out of safe windows to communicate all the time, but calls start regardless of whether you are in one or not. A driver pulling up to a bus stop is entering one of these safe windows. Not necessarily practical because you are also the bus conductor, and here you will stop and put your handbrake on. You're safe to communicate. But when you pull away, you will infrequently find a safe window to communicate. But the voice of the controller will enter the cab regardless of whether you're in motion or not. Can't the bus driver communicate using the radio system while they're moving? I spoke to an ex-VOSA official, now they would be DVSA, and he said it was a grey area. My understanding is that it is legal to use a radio system to communicate while in motion. TfL don't want the bus driver to use the radio on the go, so they made it impractical by having the press of the foot switch be the means of transmitting the message. In essence, it kind of activates the microphone while it is pressed. The reason that it's impractical is that it can only be practically used by the right foot, and that uses the accelerator and brake pedal. So unless the bus is stationary, a driver who chooses to use the radio must take it away from the accelerator and brake pedal. In other words, away from acceleration and slowing and stopping. In the next video, we'll look at how I believe the practice of answering a call in motion is common practice and how we can systematically address it. There is another problem. With the controllers often being very busy, they will rarely wait a full 30 seconds before abandoning a call. A driver might be just getting to a safe place when the call is ended. This can sometimes turn into a hit and miss process where a call cannot and should not be answered. You as the driver get to a safe window, and only after you leave that safe window does another call come through. Communication does not always have to be logistically challenged. It can also be technologically challenged by variances in volume, with some calls being almost inaudible above the sound of the engine, and some blasting out loud. Some radios don't function, or during the call, some elements of the radio can stop working where you can hear but not respond, or the opposite way around. Or the call cuts out mid-sentence, like your mobile phone sometimes. Also, some controllers are harder to understand than others, and technical difficulties like static interference or its digital equivalent can impact the quality or feasibility of the call. Calls are subject to further constraints with a 1 minute and 30-second timeout window. If all communications are complete within that time frame, the interaction is concluded. If not, you may be drawn back into the system with more delays. If a call circulates back because the bus could not take the call, technical issues, or because the call is timed out, the controller may attempt to reinitiate a communication. If a driver doesn't hear back from a controller after an interaction, then they might try and restart the process with the green call button. Having lived and breathed this system, I know the difficulties aren't just occasional, they're baked in. And it's not just about safety. Every time a driver has to go back into the communication system, something that happens again and again, it wastes the controller's time and it distracts the driver. That's why number 8 of the bus driver's Bill of Rights matters so much. The right to drive without being forced to answer the radio calls or text messages from the controller while in motion. Now, controllers are busy people too, and when they're busy, the system gives them every incentive to push for instant replies, even if it means the driver is forced to respond at the wrong time in unsafe conditions. And that's the problem. Not bad people, a bad system. And this is something that we look at in detail in the next video. One reason why bus drivers are answering while the bus is in motion and how we solve it. At the end of each episode, we'll share ways that you can help move the needle on getting human factors into buses. Today, we're asking people to sign the petition to get the bus driver's Bill of Rights into bus contracts. Link in the description. Also, like, comment, share and subscribe. Make the algorithm a friend to human factors solutions. This has been Better Buses. See you in the next one, and stay safe out there.